can't I do?
Can't say that, okay? It's not your word.
I can't say BLACKkKLANSMAN?
No.
That's not my word?
No.
Oh.
The combination of all the words are not yours.
Well, clan is my word.
Klansman.
Klansman.
You can't say black.
I thought that was okay to say, though.
You thought.
It's hard to keep up with all these rules and regulations, man. It's very hard. I feel like I'm back in fucking college again.
I feel like that was a good intro to me. Some coughing, because I'm probably going to be coughing quite a bit this episode.
Most likely, yeah. Jackson, we just found out today, unfortunately, has tuberculosis.
Yeah.
And
Addison took the news by blowing cigarette smoke in my face for 5 minutes straight.
Well, they say if you have tuberculosis, you should be in a dry climate. And so I figured by blowing smoke in your face, like that's literally as dry as it could be. The ash might go in and like clot some of the bleeding in your lung. That was just my thinking, though.
People are like, I want free healthcare. It's like, no, just go see Addison. He'll blow some smoke in your face.
Yeah.
Go to his office.
It's a cure-all.
Yeah.
It's not snake oil.
Dr.
Okay.
Addison.
Dr. Addison. Well, I'm Addison.
I'm Jackson.
And I'm Josh. I'm that guy.
Welcome to We Did It, Boys. Episode 10
Double digits.
of To Be Honest.
We did it.
We did it.
It's been a long road, just grinding, making our dues.
Paying our dues, fucking buying equipment, and seeing a lot of fucking movies.
A lot of movies we don't want to see.
Yeah. Yep.
Including
BLACKkKLANSMAN, which is what we saw tonight. The new Spike Lee joint.
Yeah, let's just note that our projection for this film was completely off. So we didn't see the ratio.
A switch of venues tonight. Where'd we go see it, Josh? The trash can of Cherry Creek AMC.
The rat-infested Satan's asshole.
The Google reviews were hilarious that we were reading beforehand of people spotting mice in the theater with them.
Yeah, at least like 6 or 7 people were like, yeah, we saw rats. The staff knew about it, and they weren't surprised. And that's it. They're like 1 star, or sometimes they gave them 2 stars for the rats.
Also, that like pile of trash on top of the trash can.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite
overflowing.
one.
That was amazing. That it was like an avant-garde piece of art that they had like stacked pile like
they
trash
kept going
up the wall. It was amazing.
It's like at a certain point, like the people that come out of the movie was like, oh, I guess I have to put this trash on this trash. They couldn't find another trash can.
Well, it's severely understaffed too. There were like 3 people working there for the whole thing. Louis Guy Detroit happened to say, I came to see a Coco movie, and they put a Frozen movie for 40 minutes and counting before the movie should put in the begging. Bad. Boring why they do that without warning.
And
Powerful words from Louis Guy.
my laughing is just coughing tonight, so I was actually laughing at that review.
Okay, good.
But I love how that's just a critique of the fact that they decided to put a long short of Frozen before the Coco movie, the Pixar movie.
Yeah.
And this guy's basically writing a review of the movie that he saw and critiquing the studio's decision by giving the theater a bad review.
Yes. They should give warning before they do this.
Warning, this is not the movie you're about to see.
A bad.
Bad.
Can we get him on the podcast?
Wait, well, let's reach out to Louis.
Yeah, we'll
Guy.
hit him up.
Yeah, I guess we could see what he thinks of other theaters, or maybe other Pixar movies, and the shorts that they put in front of him.
Truly an idol in the
volcano
critical community.
My question originally, before I was rudely interrupted by this talk of theaters, did they say a Spike Lee joint in the beginning?
I don't remember.
Do we have
I
that
don't
credit?
remember saying that.
I remember.
Actually, no. It was like partially cut off. I think it was one of the
No,
of the
that
text
was
cut off.
It was.
That was like, this is a true motherfucking story.
This is based on some for real shit,
Yeah.
something like that.
Which we can only see like the for real shit, and we couldn't see the other words because the projection was completely fucked.
Yeah, I would say we lost probably like at least 10% on all sides of the picture. And I've thought about maybe going and complaining, but they'd already had the one fuck up where they started it and it was all pink and green. And it just wasn't worth it.
Dude, I bet complaints just hit their face and roll off because they get them so often.
Yeah.
They probably are like prideful about it. Like, yeah, we know we suck.
Yeah, we know it's trash, okay? I'm getting paid fucking $11 a day
right?
to be here.
The person who you should be complaining to, I bet they never go to the theater, which is like
No.
the people who actually own and manage it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean AMC, I guess, maybe the only one that you could point a finger at and say, "Hey, fucking fix this shit."
Protect your brand.
Yeah, exactly. Well, anyways, yeah. So we saw BLACKkKLANSMAN at the Cherry Creek AMC 8, and directed by Spike Lee. It's his most recent film since Chirac.
I'm actually kind of a fan of Spike Lee. So
No, tell me why.
And you took a class on him. I don't know if we mentioned that yet, right?
yeah, we both took a class.
I didn't take the Spike Lee
Wait,
class.
I thought you just said that.
No, we took a class in which he showed Do the Right Thing because he fucking loves Spike Lee.
Oh, yeah. Well, he loves them. Yeah, he does love Spike Lee.
But I did not take the actual Spike Lee director's class.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Spike Lee. I think
okay.
more than I dislike him. There are definitely movies that aren't good that I actually think are kind of trash, and most of his movies are problematic in terms of like being sexist and racist. But I like him as a filmmaker. I think he's very inflammatory.
Kind of like Jackson's lungs.
Yeah, he's almost as inflamed as Jackson's.
Wow,
poor lungs.
that really hits home.
Yeah, does that connect with you?
What's a moment that one of his movies has been racist?
That was good.
Was that a genuine question?
Yeah, you just said like his movies were racist sometimes, right?
Or
did I?
No, I did.
No,
I
he
did.
did say-
No, I did say that. He has a
Why is
tendency.
that so funny?
Okay, I thought it was pretty blatant. A lot of his stuff.
His attempt at like, I think he's more so sexist than he is racist, but he relies on stereotypes of characters, even if he is trying to draw something or make a point to it. He doesn't necessarily fully deliver on what that stereotype means, and so especially if we're talking about Do the Right Thing, you have that montage of all these characters saying racist things to each other. Like you have I think they're the Koreans of the grocery store. You have the blacks. You have the Mexicans, and I think you had like Europeans or the Italians. You have all these people like just shouting vitriol, racist comments at each other.
Okay, I haven't seen Do the Right Thing, so
It's a really good movie, but at the same time, like he does that throughout all of his movies, where these characters are almost just archetypes of a race. So it's not. I wouldn't say blatant racism.
I think a great example of that from the film we saw tonight is Ivanhoe, the character of Ivanhoe,
Sure.
who's the fat, stupid Klan member. Or I can't even remember. What do they call themselves? What's their special florid words that they use?
the organization.
The organization, and there's someone else, but he's he like talks like an actual
He's a
redneck.
slack jog hillbilly.
Yeah, well, hillbilly with tobacco in his
In
mouth.
Colorado Springs, like where do you find that guy? Also,
In Colorado Springs, I'm sure there's a fucking there's a
it's
lot.
a little
of them.
heavy-handed. But Connie too is another example of just like a racist portrayal of a white woman, and I don't know. It just at a certain point in that movie, it got kind of just like I get it.
Yeah. So the characters in general in this movie, I would say absolutely fall under the umbrella of what you're talking about, and that there's maybe only one or two of them that I felt were actually, maybe two or three genuine characters and weren't stereotypes or caricatures or just there basically to get across the points that Spike Lee wanted to.
I want to continue to talk about Spike Lee though as a whole, because I think he's kind of prolific.
Like an asshole, you mean?
He's a huge asshole, but he's very prolific, and he's kind of all encompassing in terms of the racial argument. Because Do the Right Thing sparked this huge riot or this huge uproar of people were really upset about like the fact that you're going to talk about race in this way, and I think he's trying to recapture that with this movie. In a couple of other movies, he does it to a more subtler degree, but this movie definitely was like him like, let's fucking light the flame, like let's get going. And I thought it tried to capture that same energy as Do the Right Thing.
Do you want to tell us what this movie's about real quick before we jump into specific things about it?
Sure. Yeah. So this movie's about it's based on some for real shit. Ron Stallworth, the first black detective in the Colorado Springs police force. He joins, and he's initially like in the records department, and he's subject to all of the racist white cops, and then he gets this idea that he wants to investigate and infiltrate the Colorado Springs chapter of the Ku Klux Klan. So he does, and along the way he gets Adam Driver, who's his partner there in the detective place.
It's like the undercover investigative division.
Yeah. He starts in narcotics and then very quickly moves into intelligence. And so he infiltrates the Ku Klux Klan, and I guess at that point we'd probably be getting into spoilers if we went any further than that. But yeah, he infiltrates it with the help of Adam Driver, and
so the idea is that Rob Stallworth, Ron Stallworth, he talks to the Ku Klux Klan on the phone. Adam Driver's character goes undercover as the white man who
he's Ron Stallworth, and then Ron Stallworth is also Ron Stallworth,
which is kind of confusing, unless you see the movie.
Yeah,
I feel like it's like a plot stretch to make it work, where it's just why wouldn't you just have Adam Driver on the phone too?
Yes.
Well, because the whole thing was that he had originally called one of the Klan members and used his own name, and so this continuity of the same voice over the phone, and then it sounds slightly different in person. I guess that's what it was. I mean, yeah, you're right. It is a stretch, though, now that I'm saying it out loud.
Yeah. No, because he just he was reading the paper one day, and he comes across this ad for the Ku Klux Klan, and he's like, oh, fuck it. So he calls him up and leaves a message, and then they call him right back. And the president of the chapter, Walter, calls him, and he tells a story about how a black guy raped his sister, and he really sells it to Walter, and Walter says, well, hell, I think we'd really like for you to be a part of this. Come on down. And so Adam Driver goes in his stead, and that's kind of where the plot of the movie kicks off from there.
Yeah.
That's right. And also there's another part to this movie where Ron Stallworth is actually infiltrating the Black Panther. Well, it's the Black Student
We should
Union.
say what's the name of the speaker, Josh?
Stokely Carmichael.
Yeah, Stokely Carmichael, who had recently changed his name.
Why'd you ask me?
Because I remember in the scene when she says Stokely Carmichael, you made a sound like a recognizing sound. So I thought maybe you know who he was. I wasn't familiar with him.
Yeah, I was kind of nervous that this movie would be like a name dropping kind of movie with all these black political figures and intellectuals. It wasn't, but when he did Stokely Carmichael, I was like, oh, okay, Stokely, okay. So who else is going to be in this fucking movie? But yeah.
So just an interesting thing that I just noticed. So the Adam Driver, he has kind of like a buddy who we thought looked like Stephen Buscemi.
Is it his brother?
It's his brother.
Oh, really?
No way.
What's his name? Bob Buscemi?
Michael
Buscemi.
Yeah, I bet Josh likes that.
He does. It makes it easy for Josh to remember.
I can just call him Steve Buscemi. No one will fucking care. It's literally him.
Yeah,
they're both disturbingly figured.
Yeah, I was thinking it was almost too much of a coincidence how much he looked like Steve-O, so that's kind of a relief to hear.
So, yeah, it was funny when I saw that, because I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense, because they both have that smile.
Yeah, and
they have the hair.
The bulging fish eyes and the hair, and yeah. Well, So who wants to kick it off here?
Well, so we can talk about the beginning of this movie, because it's kind of a weird beginning where they start with a clip from I think it's Gone with the Wind. I'm gonna check right here before I make a fool
Well,
of
we can
myself.
talk about the disorienting nature of the beginning and the end. Not the end. We don't have to right now, but we can talk about the fact that this movie does not want you to get settled in.
Well,
at least
Spike Lee likes that fucking meta shit. He likes to put in those little meta things, which of course we'll have to get to when we talk about the end.
I don't really like him that much.
Well,
I thought that the Alec Baldwin part was
funny.
Was funny,
but that worked with the movie though. Really well, because he plays a Ku Klux Klan propaganda maker.
Yeah, and he keeps fucking up his lines and going ah! to keep his voice warm or something,
right.
and he does it at just the right moments. Alec Baldwin has fucking amazing comic timing.
Yeah. And then you hear the secretary off screen God bless America.
God bless you, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was reasonably funny. I was wondering what point he was trying to get across with it, because Alec Baldwin is standing in front of this projector that's putting up really horrible racist images and Ku Klux Klan text and stuff like that.
I thought that he was recording himself, but it's just he has a projector on his face and he's just talking.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of so speaking of kind of meta cinematography that he did, what did you think during the scene of the speaker? The speaker, you have
I hated it.
It was the faces of the crowd fading in and out of a black screen.
Yeah,
really
and, like,
weird,
merging with one another.
Oh, you didn't like that scene?
I didn't like a lot of the editing choices that he made in this movie.
Well, that specifically for me stood out as something I did not like. It kind of reminded me of those like really bad self-portraits that people do, where they have a picture of themselves. It's clear,
like the meme of the band kid who's like smiling and then he just has cold dead eyes.
It's very 80s.
Yeah,
I did like that though. That was the thing that kind of made that scene worthwhile, because it did just feel like this guy reading a script. And
I thought the guy was doing a really good job acting. I kind of just wanted to watch him talk.
He plays Dr. Dre.
He does.
That's where I recognize
Straight
him.
Straight out of Compton.
Yeah. That reminded me. He kind of has like a Denzel Washington vibe to him, like a young Denzel Washington, like very just him as an actor.
What's charismatic.
He's like a highly trained actor. And I think he's British too.
Black man, whatever your name is, we love you. So
it's Corey Hawkins is his name, is he London? He's American, actually.
Oh, is he?
Mm-hmm. I think you're thinking of the guy from Get Out.
Maybe.
Who is definitely British. He was on that episode of Black Mirror.
And he's also in Get Out.
That's what I said.
I like the the imposed faces on going over. I don't know. It was definitely weird and it took me out of it, but I think that was part of the.
It felt kind of hokey to me.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like it was capturing the enthusiasm or the deepness of a speech, but also putting it against the fact that like you're as an audience are watching it from the perspective of Ron, who is infiltrating as a cop. Like there's like a weird disingenuousness. Fuck.
I felt like they were trying to capture the faces of people being inspired because everyone just had that look of hope on their face listening to them.
Yeah, but they were encapsulated in blackness. You'd see these faces like in darkness. So I don't know if it was exactly like it would be hokey if that was his attempt, but I think it was a little bit more.
I don't know. So much of this movie is like a blunt fucking object hitting you in the fucking head. I didn't get any.
How so? How so? I'm just asking you.
It's the second time you've done this. It's so good because Spike Lee is like, from every movie that I've watched, he is completely on the nose with everything.
There's no subtlety in this movie. Zero subtlety in any of it.
No.
And that's what I mean is so I'm not giving him the benefit of the doubt here. I think by superimposing those faces, like he was trying to do the obvious thing. I don't think there was any kind of subtext to it that I wasn't picking up on.
Sure. I guess he could have done it better where he just like had a camera like track across their faces. And you could have done that, and they did that actually. I
was just going to say, I think that there's a much better scene at the end of the movie where that older gentleman is speaking in the room, and people are being like, "No, no," and when he's telling the story,
he's telling that story, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was a way more powerful version of basically the same scene. It was intercut with the scenes from the Ku Klux Klan gathering where people are being like, what would be the word?
They're being
planning.
Inducted, thank you. Yeah, I wanted to say inaugurated, but no.
They were baptized. They were baptized as the Christian brothers of the Ku Klux Klan.
They were, yeah.
I'm familiar with my brother in. Yeah, so I guess, I don't know. Most of Spike Lee movies, when I talk about them out loud, I realize like I can't defend him. So that scene is like hard for me to defend. I love the Carmichael talking and speaking, but at the same time, yeah, I guess it's really hard to argue the superimposition of the faces.
Did he write this movie too?
It looks like he did a pass on the script. At the end, it was written by two people, and then they had the word and then someone else in Spike Lee. So when you have the ampersand, it means that those people wrote it together. And then when you have the word and, that means that someone did like another pass on the script.
Okay.
So he did another pass with this other writer friend of his, I guess.
Do you know, did he write Chirac?
I honestly don't know. He did write Do the Right Thing.
He's more of a director than a writer.
He is.
Okay.
So I don't know if, yeah.
Interesting. I think I like this movie more than you guys. I can already tell. I like this movie a lot.
Well, let's go ahead. So we're through like the beginning of it. Does settling into the the overall plot work? Like, because
I think it does. Yeah, I think the story actually flows really well as far as like this kind of breaking the wall, getting onto the force, as far as being accepted by his peers, and then also like I feel like the dual investigations of him investigating the Black Students Union as well as the Ku Klux Klan flows really well together.
Did you feel at all that it was like too quick, like especially him getting into he was working the records or whatever that room, and like he's like, I want to be an undercover cop, and they're like, oh, that's you're a rookie, you just started, and then he's like 2 days later like, you got the job. Did that feel too fast? Because for me that felt rushed.
I think it would have felt rushed if it wasn't like, oh, you're the only black guy on the force, so like we need you to go undercover for this job, which is basically how it happened. Because he's like, put me in investigations, and they're like, no. Okay. And then they're like, okay, we have actually a job for you. Yeah. So hop in here and go to this student meeting.
I like the fact that like he just kind of opens the newspaper and sees the KKK in the newspaper and is like, oh, I'm gonna give him a call, because I have that exact experience in my life. Where, there was an ad for I think they were called like the White Brothers or something, or the White Knight Brothers. It was like an ad. They're in Denver. They had an ad posted up, and I took a picture of it. And when I got home, I was like going through my pictures, and I looked at it. And I was like, oh, let me give them a call. And so I called them, and the same thing. Like it goes to voicemail. They left a voicemail, and I left a message, and I was like, I would like to join your clan. I would like to, or I didn't say clan, I said I'm really interested in it. They didn't call me back or anything, but it was a surreal feeling hearing them say like the white brother, the white Aryan brothers or whatever, and I was just like, whoa.
Yeah, those people, they exist.
That shit's real. Mm-hmm. But when that happened, I was just like, oh, this is very fun. And so I did appreciate kind of just like, oh, I'm just gonna call these people because what's the worst that can happen?
Actually, I thought that scene was funny too, where he picks up the newspaper, just sees it, and he's like, what the hell, dials it, leaves a message, and then he calls him back, and then he starts like talking about immediately all these minorities that he hates and all this awful stuff, and everybody in the office just like turns around and like looks at him as he's talking about
as soon as he drops the N word. Mm-hmm.
He's like, I hate these niggers. I thought it was a little hammy that they did that, or at least based on the audience's reaction, which Can we just say
God, the fucking audience, dude.
I hate that audience.
This is a public service announcement. You do not have to participate in films.
In fact, when you see them it's movies. Discouraged.
You're not supposed to.
Yeah. The fart really made me laugh though. Like the old guy who clearly just moved the wrong way, and it was just like
let it rip. It was kind of
also somebody like kicked their beer bottle across the floor that they snuck into the theater.
Yeah.
One of those teenagers, those dang teenagers.
Those dang teenagers.
But yeah, the whole like everybody turning slowly around to face Ron as he's like ranting about all these ethnic people and the ethnic cleansing that needs to be done in America was a little hammy, but I don't know. I guess it worked. I don't know. It would have been better without the audience.
John David Washington, who plays Ron Stallworth, what did you think of his acting?
I thought at times it was good, and then at times I hated it.
I thought he was good. That was like one of the reasons I was drawn into it.
Hated it. All right, hate is a strong word.
Hate is a strong word, and we just saw a movie about hate. So
you're just feeling that hate.
I'm just feeling that
boiling
hate.
up.
I'm gonna go ahead
and
just
feel like starting an organization that's based around the hate for Ron Stallworth and the actor's ability
and the type of actor that played him. So Addison, you're about to talk about some stuff, and I think you're about to talk about some spoilers.
Yeah, it's not really a spoiler, but I think we're going to be getting in deep here. For those of you that don't want any spoilers, that fucking scene where he goes over to his girlfriend's house. What's her name? Patricia?
Patrice.
Played by Emma Thompson, right?
Laura Harrier.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's
Do you
fine.
know who she is?
No, I thought Emma Thompson was in this movie, and I was like, wow, there's two roles that Emma Thompson plays where she's a progressive black woman, and she breaks up with her boyfriend because he's in a conflicted. Yeah, it's a little racist. I'm gonna take a selfie real quick.
You mean Tessa Thompson?
Emma Thompson is an
old English.
Stop fucking laughing.
Stop being funny, everyone. That scene where he's like, I'm an undercover detective and I'm investigating the Ku Klux Klan.
I feel like that was not written correctly because he was like stumbling over
and
his
she's
lines.
like, do you not care at all about your brothers and sisters? And he's like, what do you think I'm doing investigating the Ku Klux Klan as a private detective in the Colorado Springs Police Force?
She's like, were you...
He did say that,
were you
literally.
investigating us when we met? And I feel like that was kind of glazed over a bit. He
acknowledged it and then just kind of moved on. But the acting was fucking horrible in that scene from both parties. It
was just a weird scene. Like, I feel like that was a scene where they should have reshot that, like, right away. They should have been like, another take.
It reminds me of School Days, when the Spike Lee movie, where Lawrence Fishburne is like in the opening, where he's just like on the steps of the school and he's like talking about his brothers and sisters, like that. The whole character of Patricia reminded me exactly of that. Of Lawrence Fishburne's character. It was like literally just in a male or a female version.
Well, that's what we call progressive, you know.
Yeah, because they both were in that might have been the early 80s, like that time period.
So I did think, you know, aside from that scene, I thought mostly he was good. I thought he was serviceable in the role. I believed it, but there were a couple moments just kind of took me out of it. Now,
he should have been the main character in Sorry to Bother You.
I actually thought that myself too.
Like, he should have just done his own voice.
He had way more charisma, I think, than Lakeith personally, from the lead from Sorry to Bother You.
Yeah, Lakeith Stanfield.
Yeah. I thought Adam Driver was excellent in this movie.
Adam Driver's really good. Yeah, I love Adam Driver.
His acting's good. I don't like his development for his character, which we can talk about later, but I just thought, yeah, he played really good acting. He acted
really well, but honestly, I thought the one who kind of stole the show for me was Walter, who was the president of the Colorado Springs chapter of the Ku Klux Klan, and he's played by an actor who I have never seen before, but I kind of eagerly await the next thing that he's in. His name's Ryan Eggold, and I think he's just been on like 90210 or something stupid like that. This is maybe his first role, but I thought he had like a real menacing charisma to him, which is exactly what that role needed.
Yeah, I thought his character would be
reserved.
Yeah. Where you almost, and this is gonna sound bad, you almost could like see yourself maybe having a beer with him, as long as none of the crazy racist shit came up. Like, he seemed like an all right enough dude. And I think that's what makes those kinds of roles really powerful.
Right.
Is when it's not just fucking hard line one way or the other. This guy is racist all the time, which I would say Felix absolutely falls under that umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
Felix, he's like the lieutenant or whatever.
He's like Racism
Klan.
Unchained.
Yes, and he literally has no nuance or anything like that. He has one thing in mind, and that's kill minorities.
Okay.
Yeah, and he actually he's the one who, like Adam Driver, he infiltrates the KKK, and then Felix is the one who's like he's convinced Adam Driver's character is Jewish, which he is. Mm-hmm. We find that out, and then he's just constantly like suspicious of him the whole time.
Correctly suspicious.
Yeah, and so he builds a lot of tension around that, going through the scenes where Adam Driver is trying to win over the KKK.
So I thought Walter's character had this, at first, was like this reserved guy who was like trying to like, hey, like, we gotta get these recruits in, don't be offensive. He's like this nice guy, but then you would reveal that he's this like menacing person who has the capability of doing something really awful that's worse than what is it Luther?
Felix.
Or these guys. They get in my head.
Felix, who, real quick, not to derail what you're going to say, is actually a Finnish actor, which really surprised me because there was like no trace of an accent or anything.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at his name right now.
I'm telling you,
Jasper Conan.
There's a lot of dots over his name. Lots of umlauts.
Those fucking Europeans are really good at the Southern Americana accent.
That is, I think that may be probably the easiest American accent to do.
It's like a British accent for Americans.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Hello, I'm British. But so I thought Walter's character was going to have this sort of payoff where you're like, oh, this guy's actually awful. Because they were playing it up as if like he's like trying to be like, yeah, he's racist, but at the same time he's like he's understanding of nuances where like you can't be like mean to people even if they are white and even if they are just like possibly Jewish. And then he does something really awful where he's irredeemable, and you never get that in the movie with him.
So that kind of like leads into something that I wanted to bring up. So this movie tries to make a lot of current day political points, the messages across.
It hits you over the fucking head with them.
They do. So there's a scene where it's Adam Driver and I think it's David Duke they're walking along, and he stops and he explains to him that you can't have, you can. Someday you're going to have people who aren't
David Duke, who is the real life head or former head
Grand
of the
Wizard,
current, I believe. Yeah, and so he explains to him
former.
that
he's former. That's what it said at the end.
Well, because there's this whole stint with David Duke. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
No,
but
go ahead.
He, because the whole thing with Donald Trump, where David Duke supported him, and everyone was getting into his business about like whether or not he's still part of the Ku Klux Klan. He had to like publicly come out and say he's no longer part of the Klan. He's just a white supremacist on his own. He's a rogue supremacist.
I thought maybe one of the movie's better touches was casting Topher Grace in the role of David Duke.
Yeah.
Because he embodies that kind of sniveling snake type personality that David Duke has kind of proved himself to be, at least in my mind. Like, I always remember him in Traffic, right, where he's the preppy rich boy who gets the chick into heroin.
Yeah.
And he's just a fucking scumbag who sells her into prostitution and shit. And so I thought, yeah, he definitely embodied that role really well, and I thought that was a nice touch. But we did interrupt you.
Jackson, you were talking about that scene with David Duke and...
Yeah, he's explaining to him that they can't have politicians who are like going up and like spewing the N-word and being overtly racist. They have to embody the ideas of the Klan, but they can't be outward about it.
Yeah.
And I feel like Ryan Eggold's character embodies that, where he's like never really like disgustingly racist through the whole movie, but he's like the president of the chapter of the Colorado Springs Ku Klux Klan.
That's how racism proliferates.
Exactly.
That's how it gets sneaky and it gets in under the radar. Mm-hmm. And that's why I thought that character was especially good and especially powerful on the subject of David Duke and all of his.
But it was underused though. That was my problem with this character. Talking about Walter, right?
Yeah, talking about Walter. This movie did have a lot of balls in the air, where I'm kind of not surprised that maybe he wasn't in it as much as he should have, because there was a lot going on.
He really doesn't get any sort of resolution.
No, he doesn't, because he's not part of the plan at the end, nor I don't think we see him after that at all.
He's not a part of the plan at all, right?
I think the last time you see him is when he is just standing next to David Duke, and he's just talking to him about wanting to go to the national chapter.
Yeah, he's like, I think I might be ready for the big time or something like that.
Right.
Well, and speaking of audience participation, there's that scene where he's listening. I think what you were talking about, the Felix character like sits in his truck and listens to these David Duke tapes where he just sits and he espouses his fucking racist rhetoric bullshit.
I think that's him and Ron talking on the phone.
One scene it is, and then another scene it's not clear anyways.
Okay,
it seems like it because Felix is sitting in the car.
Well, they just do that a lot, so I figured.
I thought it was Felix listening it both times, and I realized it was him talking on the phone at least once. So
once in the beginning, because they cut to it.
Confusing like
because the first time they did it and they didn't cut to Ron, and then the second time they did, so I was like, wait, so how many times was that like a? Because it sounded like he was just like ranting and it wasn't recorded or anything. But
yeah, it didn't seem like especially planned or scripted. But then he has that line where he's like, "We're gonna make America great again."
It happened a couple times,
and the audience was like,
"Or
no."
Oh, how? Oh,
no!
Yeah. Oh, I bet you're gonna make America great again.
Yeah, I mean, just such an obvious illusion.
I know, right?
But the audience ate it up. The audience,
sure.
So far as I could tell, ate this movie up. I mean, there was clapping. There was clapping at the end, okay, and there was not a single at or X-wing or anything like that in this movie, and people still fucking clap.
It's that white guilt, I think.
Oh, it absolutely is that white guilt, because the demographic of it too, it wasn't just white people, it was like old white people.
Oh yeah.
It was like the Sacha Baron Cohen self-hating white male character on Who is America, like these older flaccid liberals.
It just like this movie was just like it promised to bash Trump, and that's how people bought into it, and they were not disappointed.
Well, they definitely try to draw a direct line from, hey, look at this, like, this is like in the 70s, a story about the Ku Klux Klan. Here's a direct line to the current administration.
Yeah, like, the irony of having this rhetoric in the 60s, in the 70s, but also at the same time we're doing the exact same thing in 2018.
Which, again, Spike Lee wants to make very, very sure that you don't miss a single bit of what he wants to tell you.
Yes.
And so at the end, he puts in all of that fucking newsreel footage.
The Charlottesville news footage of the white college students.
The tiki torch with fucking motherfucker. Yeah,
chanting blood and soil.
And I credit to him, honestly, for just being like, hey, here's a fairy tale ending, a semi-fairy tale ending to this story that you've been invested in for the past 2 hours. Let me show you all this horrible footage of people being attacked and brutalized, and then also like modern day people marching just like you just saw in the 70s, where you think it's a fictional story.
Yeah, so the transition there is that you're, you sense that the movie is about to come to an end, and then all of a sudden Ron gets a knock on his door, and then he opens it, and then there's really no one there, and then he looks in the distance, and there's a burning cross.
It was kind of a strange shot when he walks out of when they walk out of
I like that
his
shot.
apartment.
Pretty surreal.
And they're like on a dolly or a track or something moving.
Well, it's like the camera's zooming in on them, but they're staying static, but the background's zooming.
Yeah, no, it wasn't like the Jaws zoom. They were actually, I felt like, on a platform moving.
Yeah, they're definitely on a track.
Yeah,
but it was like it reminded me of all the blaxploitation movies that they were talking about. Like,
yeah.
Where they're sitting there posing with their guns because they think that somebody's outside trying to break in or something like that.
It was just very reminiscent, like, because they had that whole sequence where they were talking about which is which, or which is better.
Yeah, Shaft or Superfly, and she's like, well, pimps are a bad representation for our culture, so I'd never pick that, so I guess I'd have to pick Shaft. And his whole point in asking that, of course, is because he just desperately wants to reveal that he's an undercover detective.
Right.
And he wants it to be, like, okay for him to say that.
Yeah, I feel like Spike Lee really, really wanted to pay some homage to blaxploitation films, and I'm by no means an expert. I've seen a handful of them, not many, but I felt like it was a pretty weak homage.
I think it would have been lost on the audience though that would come to see this
until he said, "Hey, you remember these blaxploitation films, Superfly and Shaft? Yeah. Do you guys remember?"
And I don't think anyone would have caught because the ending was just because they were all not free shot, but they were in a pose as they were tracking across the hall or down the hall, and it just reminded me of like how you would bust out of a room and they would have that like shot, and then it would pull their body part in these different colors, and it was like very artistic in these blaxploitation movies. Like just I'm thinking of Shaft, like him kicking down a door and like into a room where like this woman is being attacked by these white men. He's like, not so fast, motherfucker.
Can we get that one more time?
No.
Oh, I loved it.
But yeah, so that was like, I don't know if and that would be weird if they're paying a homage to that, because like that was not what the movie was centered around at all. Mm-hmm. So the shot doesn't really make sense. It was an interesting shot, but it didn't connect. But it is transition from like the Ku Klux Klan burning the cross into the
Charlottesville Tiki Torch March.
Yeah, I did really like in that scene with the Ku Klux Klan where they're burning the cross. I liked how he kept. I just really liked that they.
Did you just say that?
Well, what I liked, cinematography wise, is how it would show the cross, and then it would cut to their hood, and you could see the eye inside of the hood, and you just saw the cross burning.
That was a good shot.
Yeah, the reflection in the pupil of the crotch of the crotch burning, the cross.
Yes, burning. That is an example of subtle commentary. Of using the like mechanics and language and power of film to get a point across. Ooh,
it's pouring some drink.
Josh is on the fucking hard shit tonight. This movie really affected him deep down.
He's off that liquor.
Off that brown. Well, I just didn't think that this movie would drain me as much as it would.
I wanna run a scene by you guys and get your take on it. So, this movie is trying to like tie some loose ends up really fast.
Sorry, the sound of it pouring liquid into liquid is.
It's better than me coughing, so don't worry about it.
It's true.
So there's this like. I wasn't meant to live long. So there's this cop on the force that's always an asshole to Ron, and he's really racist.
What a stereotype that guy was too.
Yeah.
Oh, and that. Oh my god, that fucking part at the end. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to mention.
Okay.
So he walks up to Ron and his new girlfriend, and then he's like. Just starting to be an asshole.
Which we should also say that in the beginning, this cop pulled over Patrice and Stokely as she was taking him to the airport, and he's like feeling her up, and he's just being a racist prick. And so, yeah, Please continue.
So he corners them at this like party that they're throwing, and he starts to talk about how he keeps black people in line, and that he admitted to stopping her and feeling her up, but he doesn't really remember her. And then all of a sudden, Ron opens up his shirt. He reveals he's wearing a wire. Oh no! And then all the cops go, "I heard that. I heard that."
And the chief busts through, and he's like, "I heard that."
And then he's like, "Cuff 'em, boys."
Yeah. It felt
and
like
the credits roll, and then there's like. Dun, 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 dun,
I was gonna say it felt
dun,
like a
dun.
Naked Gun skit or something like that. Like it
was
felt
so
like
cheesy.
satire.
Yeah, it was really cheesy. And
Well,
it
kind of was.
ham-fisted.
I think it kind of was though, because you think that's the end of the movie. Like they're gonna have a couple other shots of him like getting settled in. Like, oh, I'm a part of the
gonna
force.
end in like 3 different spots.
It was like fucking Return of the King.
There's a couple of false endings, but I thought that, they had the whole like, okay, let's burn everything. Like this never happened. So I thought that was the undermining of that event, where you think like everything's hunky dory, everything's cool, because we got like the one race, we got every racist guy in this movie. We got them all. Everyone's good.
Not really. So like I think the reason they put that scene in is because they had to arrest somebody, because all the other racists in this movie just blew themselves up.
That's true. Well,
No one died in the explosion.
They didn't
I don't
die.
think, did they?
No, they were just caught, because the car that blew up, that was Ron's car.
Yeah, it blew up Ron's car, and her truck, I think, was all that happened.
She
I
had
don't
a
think
Beetle.
anybody
Okay.
died from the C4. No, Patrice
They were just
had the Beetle.
There was just like 5 cops there when he like, because he was like, oh yeah, we're gonna blow up her house.
I'm pretty sure they blew themselves up.
No, because they were talking about how like Felix was in prison, and
No, they're talking about his wife wasn't going to prison for a long time.
Both of them, I thought they said. Maybe I'm wrong.
At first I thought it was their car being blown up, but I did think, and I was like, oh wait, that must have been Ron's car, because I thought he pulled up right next to her car. But you're right, that was a very obnoxious scene, especially because of the audience, because as soon as they were
Was somebody
like,
clapping in that?
No, that we got
No,
woos.
no, you're right.
We got woos.
there was wooing and clapping, because that was,
If you clap during a movie, you're canceled.
yeah,
You're done.
that's as bad as being like a sex offender. And I will not take that back.
That's my favorite joke you've ever made. That one caught me by surprise.
But no, it was really bad, and I think they tried to like remedy that, because they did have the other scenes after that where it was like, you really can't do anything in the system, even though you want to, even though you did all this work trying to expose the KKK, but at the same time, like, it's, I guess, I don't know what the explanation was but there was like, just burn it all, like it never happened.
Honestly, this movie felt a little self-defeating to me in that nothing really happened.
Was resolved, no.
Nothing was resolved. There was no impact. We saw a lot of ugliness and a lot of the seedy underbelly of race relations in America. But even the climax of this movie was stupid, because we didn't get even the impact. The music completely cut out pretty much all of the diegetic sound from the C4 explosion, and it was the same BLACKkKLANSMAN theme that had kind of been playing through it. But it totally neutered that scene, or rather that part of the scene when the car blew up. I was like, okay, so that's it, I guess. Like, I'm assuming from here the investigation's over. He'll get his attaboys, and then we're done.
Well, that was my biggest problem with the movie, or the end of the movie, was that I wasn't sure exactly how they were going to end it, because if you do all this work and you invest in a story where all these things are being brought to light, and then your character is just completely made useless by saying that none of your work is going to be recognized, that doesn't feel like for what you're trying to go for. Like, you have all these other characters talking about black power and the liberation of the black people. It feels like you are reveling, if that's going to be your last few moments, you're reveling in the fact that black people don't have power.
That was definitely the point of the police chief bringing him in and saying, hey, I just want you to know you're going to have to destroy any evidence of this investigation because people can't know about this. That was, again, like Spike Lee saying, this is the real problem, is the institutional racism, the stuff that has the ability to whitewash, I guess, essentially over all of this stuff. We'll never make progress because the white man is always in power. The white man is always the chief.
That was Patricia's character. She was like, you can't change it. Is the system's corrupt, not the individual police officers?
Yeah.
Or at least, I don't think she said that, but she said you can't change anything.
Pretty damn close to
She said you can't change anything because it just because you're a cop that wants to change stuff on the inside. And I don't know, it's right, but at the same time, for character development, for a story, like, it just felt like you didn't get what you wanted. And that's why I think that scene with the whole getting that one racist cop was put in.
So you would get like something that had a neat little bow on it.
Yeah, and I think the other stuff might have been just kind of like afterthought, or maybe that was like Spike Lee's original intention, and then they were like, well, we have to have something that ties this story together, that has like that one guy have a redemption, like we really got him. I don't know.
Right.
It's tough to say for that one.
Well, so like maybe moving from that, could I get your general impressions of the movie of a whole, and maybe if you would recommend this or not recommend it?
I don't know if I'd recommend it. I think it's very...
Really? Wow. Okay.
I think it's very... it's pandering.
It is.
I think it's a movie that it's like...
Yeah, but like you saw that coming from a mile away, right?
Yeah.
Like, from the trailers, it's just you know what, and it's a Spike Lee
Honestly,
movie.
I thought the trailer to this was really fucking good.
Yeah, I didn't think it was as I thought it would be pandering. I didn't think it would be like you like will hate every white person in this movie pandering, except for the one handsome fella whose name I will mention right now, Adam Driver, but he's a handsome guy.
Yeah, if you ever want to see him having sex, watch the first season of Girls.
Girls, yep.
Is that like all he does?
He's like fucking Lena Dunham in the ass in like the first episode, and I was like, maybe the show's not for me.
In the air.
The show's not for anybody. I'm glad that show is canceled.
Girls is canceled.
Literally. But anyways, I would not. I don't know if I'd recommend. It's tough to say.
You gotta pick a side. You either can't do or don't.
Okay, I can just say I don't want to.
Shut the fuck up.
Why you gotta make me feel bad about it too?
Because I'm a petty person.
I'm canceled.
I want to see you squirm.
Coughing is canceled in 2018, sis.
I would say if you're privy to this stuff, if you're privy to Spike Lee,
like you like his movies, but you like his movies.
Yeah, and I didn't want to watch this movie. I think.
How does that work? Where you're like, I love this director, but I refuse to see his new movie.
You're a walking contradiction.
No, I didn't say I love this director. I like Spike Lee, and I like mainly his early
still
stuff.
Stands.
I like mainly his early stuff.
Okay, so you, like in his recent works have.
I'm like that hipster is like, yeah, I like Spike Lee, but I only like his early stuff.
Give me your biggest complaint about this movie.
It just felt like it's just stuff I was already aware of. Do you want me to tell you, or do you want to cough?
Well, I was hoping you could freestyle over my coughing.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna regret this when I'm not feeling well.
I'm gonna make the next beat off of your coughing because it's very rhythmic.
Jackson's just plotting his greatest anime betrayal now.
I'm not having fun on this podcast anymore.
No, I think if you are familiar with Spike Lee, you don't need to see this movie.
What's your biggest complaint? Give me your biggest complaint. I want to hear it.
Well, it's just that, I don't know, it felt like they were attempting to be shocking, and it wasn't very shocking to me. Like, all the vulgar language just wasn't, like, it's just not, just wasn't shocking to me, so.
Vulgar language, like racial slurs?
Yeah.
How would they make a movie about the Ku Klux Klan without a bunch of racial slurs, though?
I felt like it was an attempt to be like, oh, wow, this movie is edgy. Maybe watch it, like, when it comes on Netflix or whatever, but you don't need to, like, rush to theaters.
So maybe bring it to your next organization's meeting and watch it?
Yeah, and then just see, well, man, my Black Panther organization.
I'm sorry I interrupted your Black Panther party. So I think people, and by people I mean no one, because no one listens to this.
What do you mean by people?
What do you mean by us people?
I think it's pretty clear probably what I'm going to say. I'm more interested to hear your general impressions and if you'd recommend this movie.
I would totally recommend this movie. Like I said before, I really enjoyed it. I thought the story flowed really well. Like this, did you say before this is like a 2.5 hour movie?
2 hours and 15 minutes.
2 hours and 15 minutes. It did not feel that way to me. I thought that I was entertained pretty much the whole time. Like the ending, it does get really jarbled. I felt like it was ending like on 3 different occasions, and it just like kept pushing it back, and nothing really felt resolved. But the beginning of the movie, the middle, and honestly most of the ending, I was really entertained, and I thought the acting was really good. I thought the main character was done really well. I thought Adam Driver was a really good co-star for him. And I thought it was funny too. I laughed out loud a couple times. I mean, I coughed out loud a lot. That was meant to be laughter.
You actually were coughing more than you did in the theater. So who do you respect more, AMC or To Be Honest?
Like, as much as that theater was trashed, I was actually pretty comfortable most of the time. Like, I don't like chairs where I feel like I have to, like, recline.
Chairs
like,
are nice.
Most of the way. I don't, like, I feel like I am a slob that I have to go to a movie theater and recline like I'm in a lazy boy at home. You know, like, I don't need that.
Well, why would you need that? You just need to sit and watch a movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Which is crazy that people
I want to sit up
that.
like an adult, like a big boy.
But anyways,
focus on a movie.
You said, so we didn't really talk about this, but I enjoyed most of the main plot. I felt like it ran well enough, and I wasn't like unentertained. And that's why I didn't hate this movie, and I actually enjoyed it.
Here's the thing: is Spike Lee at least knows how to tell a story for the most part.
Not from my experience. Like, granted, I haven't seen all of his movies, but Chirac, like, that's proof to me that someone doesn't know how to tell a story.
Chirac is not a good example.
Chirac's not a good example, but if you look at something like Do the Right Thing, even if that too kind of rambles in parts, for the most part, it's pretty.
Well, Do the Right Thing is like you can hold on to that because there's like some linear like thing going on, and there's a lot of other stuff around it. I think this movie is more narrative central. There isn't a lot of there's a few moments of like wink wink, like pandering to the audience, where like most of it is like we know what's going on, we're not lost in that, we know the time that we're at. I think there's a little confusion of like how much time has passed in between scenes, which kind of bothered me, but you know, for the most part, I know where I'm at, I know what's going on, and I don't lose track of who's who and what relationships are what. And we didn't really talk about Adam Driver's character, but I thought most of it was good enough for me to hang on to. So I did like the main plot, but I just don't think it's like a movie that's worth going to see.
So I thought that the overall, this was probably one of the more focused Spike Lee movies, and that it had a pretty consistent narrative throughout. I think the romance subplot could have easily been ditched. I think that could have...
It's almost non-existent already.
They do some interesting stuff, though.
Those characters never kissed the whole movie.
No, there's really no like physical romance between them. But I felt like the movie took too long to get going for me, and that's kind of the first moment where it lost me a little bit.
It does take a while to get going.
I mean, we have the scene where they're like dancing in the club with
like
all the
that
other
scene.
black
Me
people,
too.
and they're singing.
I really like that scene.
It's a fine scene, but did it serve the movie or the narrative in any way? Really,
it could have, but it didn't. You're right, it didn't, but it could have. We could have had more of that development.
I feel like it establishes his character because, like, up until that point, he's just like, I want to be on the police force. I'm a very upstanding citizen. Yes, sir. No, sir. I want to be an investigative, like, detective. And then all of a sudden, he's like dancing on the dance floor. You see this other side of him.
But there isn't that when he's talking to the chief and he's talking to him, and they're like, if someone ever calls you a nigger, what are you gonna do about that? And he's just kind of like he doesn't answer. You get that side of him who's like, I'm not cool with that. And I think that establishes his character right off the bat. And you do get more of him with that scene where he's dancing, but I think that sets it up well enough where you know that like he is going to have conflict with racial aggression.
I thought that was already established in the scene with the speech when the guy's delivering his speech.